Just imagine a few tiny red threads, so fragile, so delicate, yet so precious that in medieval Europe they were valued more than their weight in gold. This was saffron, a spice so rare, so mysterious, that it could change the color of a feast, heal the sick, and even spark wars. But why was saffron so special, and what made it worth its weight in gold? To understand the true power of saffron, we need to go back, far back, to the Middle Ages. Europe's bustling markets, the echo of merchants' voices, the scent of spices in the air. Among all these treasures, pepper, cinnamon, nutmeg, saffron stood apart, not just because of its color, but because of its price. Unlike wheat or salt or even pepper, saffron wasn't grown everywhere. It came from a single flower, the crocus sativus, and harvesting it was almost impossible at scale. Each flower bloomed only for a short moment. Each flower had just 3 fragile stigmas, the red threads we call saffron. To gather just 1 kilo you needed nearly 150,000 flowers, and all of it had to be plucked by hand. Think about it. Entire fields of purple blossoms, workers bending low, carefully picking those delicate strands one by one. Hours of labor for a pinch of spice. Imagine a medieval farmer, his hands stained red, his back aching from bending in the cold dawn, knowing that every thread he picked was worth more than silver. No wonder saffron's price skyrocketed. By the 14th century, it was so valuable that merchants locked it away like treasure. In fact, in some markets, saffron cost as much as gold, sometimes even more, and it wasn't just about flavor. No, saffron's worth went far beyond the kitchen. Step into the grand hall of a medieval castle. Torches burn against stone walls, long wooden tables are covered with roasted meats, steaming pies, and freshly baked bread. But the dish that draws every gaze is golden, rice shimmering like sunlight, broth gleaming yellow, bread tinted with a glow that almost looks magical. This was saffron's gift, to transform food into a spectacle. For kings and queens, food wasn't only about taste. It was about prestige. A feast was a performance and saffron was the spotlight. Serving it wasn't just cooking. It was showing power. A lord could declare his wealth without a word, simply by letting his guests taste saffron. And yet, while nobles flaunted their golden dishes, peasants lived in another world. Their meals were simple coarse bread, pottage, maybe some vegetables, sometimes a scrap of meat. For them, saffron was a dream, a legend. They heard of its color, its price, its connection to kings, but to taste it, almost impossible. For the common folk, saffron wasn't food, it was myth. But saffron's story doesn't end in the kitchen. Medieval Europe believed deeply in the healing power of nature. Plants, roots, and herbs filled the shelves of apothecaries. And saffron, with its golden glow, was thought to be almost magical. Doctors prescribed it for fevers, heart problems, even for melancholy and sadness. Some said it could brighten the spirit, restore energy, even prolong life. During the Black Death, when fear spread faster than the plague itself, saffron was used in potions and broths, offered as protection against the invisible enemy. People paid enormous sums, clinging to the hope that saffron could save them. In those dark days, saffron was more than a spice, it was a lifeline. But power and value attract danger, and saffron's price made it a target for greed. Merchants tried to cheat buyers by mixing saffron with dyed petals, brick dust, even strands of beef hair. The authorities responded harshly. In some cities, counterfeiters were burned alive for daring to forge saffron. The risk was high, but so were the profits. And where deception failed, violence followed. In the mid-14th century, a shipment of saffron bound for Basel in Switzerland was hijacked. The stolen spice was worth thousands of florins, enough to fund armies, to buy land, to build castles. The theft did not go unanswered. What followed was known as the Saffron War. For nearly 3 months, nobles and merchants clashed, not over silver or kingdoms, but over these tiny red threads. Yes, wars were fought over saffron. That was its power. But where did it come from? Most of Europe's saffron arrived through long, perilous routes from the east. From Persia's deserts, from India's valleys, from the Arab world's vibrant markets. Imagine caravans crossing scorching sands, their camels laden with chests of saffron. Imagine ships braving storms, their holds guarded like vaults against pirates. Every mile was a gamble, every delivery a victory. By the time saffron reached Europe, its journey had already doubled its value. Every thread carried the memory of deserts, mountains, seas, and of the men who risked everything to deliver it. And when it arrived, saffron did more than flavor food. It became politics. Kings wore it in their robes, queens perfumed themselves with it, merchants proved their success with it. It turned into a currency of status. To serve saffron was to show you belonged to the ruling class. For nobles, saffron wasn't luxury, it was identity. Yet, for all its brilliance, saffron's reign was not eternal. The world was changing. The Renaissance brought new trade routes, new discoveries, new luxuries. Sugar began to dominate feasts. Coffee, chocolate, and tobacco entered Europe, capturing imaginations and markets. Saffron, though still precious, began to lose its exclusive throne. Its golden age faded, but its glow never fully disappeared. Even today, saffron remains the world's most expensive spice. In Iran, in Kashmir, in Spain's La Mancha, fields of purple flowers still bloom, and workers still bend to pick those fragile threads. Nothing has changed in how it's harvested. Every strand still plucked by hand, every ounce still the result of thousands of flowers. Its legacy is alive, woven into dishes, perfumes, and traditions. Saffron still whispers of power, luxury, and history. So why was saffron worth its weight in gold in medieval Europe? Because it wasn't just spice, it was rarity. It was beauty. It was medicine, wealth, and prestige, woven into threads so delicate, so fragile, and yet so strong they shaped centuries of history. To taste saffron was to taste power. To hold it was to hold a treasure. But saffron wasn't alone. Medieval Europe had another treasure, equally precious, equally powerful. It didn't shine golden nor glow red. It was white, pure, crystalline, essential. So valuable they called it white gold. We call it salt. Salt. It seems so ordinary to us today. A shaker on every table, a pinch added without thought. Yet in the Middle Ages, salt was life itself. To understand its power, you must step into a world without refrigeration, without freezers, without industrial preservation. In that world, salt was not simply a seasoning. It was survival. Without it, meat rotted, fish spoiled, grain turned rancid. With it, armies could march, kingdoms could store food through the winter, and trade could flourish. Picture a medieval coastal town at dawn. Fishermen drag in their heavy nets, glistening with herring and cod. Behind them, vast wooden racks stretch like skeletons toward the sky. Workers spread fish in layers, rubbing coarse crystals of salt deep into the flesh. In that moment, they're not just preserving food, they're preserving lives. Every grain means another day of survival when the seas turn stormy or the fields freeze under snow. Salt wasn't just an ingredient. It was time itself, a way of holding back decay, of keeping hunger at bay. Yet salt was not everywhere. Inland towns, far from the coasts and the salt pans, depended on traders to bring it overland. Caravans of pack animals trudged across the Alps, barrels of salt strapped tight. Cities grew rich on the salt trade, controlling the flow like today's nations control oil. Some rulers taxed it, others monopolized it outright. In France, the hated gabelle, a salt tax, became so infamous it helped fuel the French Revolution centuries later.